the start of the season that you've liked out of your team in terms of readiness and just kind of where they're at mentally?
You know, I think you get to a point where it's just time for the next thing. You know, it's funny. I just came right now from my son's signing, and so he just had a signing event. First one I've ever been able to go to because we don't get to go to those, and so that was awesome. And it was just like, you know, you get to a point in life, and it's like I can't imagine them out of our house, but at the same time, you can just, it's time. It will be time, you know. Well, with a basketball team, you just get to a point where it's time to see somebody else, you know, and we're in that right now. And so I see a real laser focus with them. I see the realization that, okay, it's on. Our exhibition game on Saturday was great for us. You know, once you get into games, everything we talk about has more context to it. And so it matters a little bit more. They can picture it a little bit more clear. We have more examples. And so I've seen focus. You know, I've seen more communication. I think a lot of growth since Saturday. And so we've taken some huge strides over the last week and a half, in my opinion.
You feel your rotations, I mean, your first five is pretty solid, especially given what you got from last year. But do you feel pretty good about what your bench rotations are going to look like and what you have, given what the exhibitions were?
Yeah, I mean, I love our depth. That's the thing I think we saw the other day was, you know, we had you know, there were some clunky parts of our exhibition games for sure, but there were moments of brilliance. And then I just left it going, man, there's a lot of potential out here. I mean, that's just how I left the gym feeling, you know, we're just scratching the surface of what we've got. We've got so much new, you know, and then you see the talent and the inside. We just got better and better as that exhibition game wore on. So as far as rotations go, I think it's going to be just a work in progress, and it's going to be evolving throughout 11 games this year in the preseason instead of 2 like last year. You know, and so it's going to be nice to have a full normal preseason to where we can work through those things and everything can kind of sort itself out. And so I think we'll have an opportunity to mess around with lineups and just see who we truly are in competition. You know, and it's going to be the fun part of the next month.
Seems like when in the exhibition when things really started to turn was when your defense really clamped down. Do you feel like that's going to be the signature of this team, is you're going to play your best when your defense is playing your best?
Yes. I think we have the opportunity to get out and run. I think I know this team can score from all over the floor. Getting stops obviously helps that out. You know, and the other day it was interesting. I mean, their 5 comes down and is hitting threes over, you know, our traditional center, which we always typically have. And so when we see a hybrid center that can knock down the 3, you know, that's a defensive adjustment for us. It's not the norm. I mean, we're used to playing Power 5 centers, some of which can step out and shoot it, but most of which cannot. And so then you get kind of comfortable running to the rim, and you know, you've got a 5 that trails into a 5-out system and knocks down threes in a non-traditional way, and that's takes adjustment. We didn't talk about that before. I knew she could shoot it. I mean, I watched her Fresno State clips, you know, but she made 3 I think last season. You know, 2 against Taya Adams in San Diego State, by the way, on our film session, which was interesting. But she hits 4 in the first half against us. But that was their strength. That was what they had over us, was let's bring the big out to the 3-point line. Well, outside of that, right there, her 3-point shooting, I loved our defense. You know, I thought we were way ahead of where we were a year ago at this time, and most of that has just been our focus as a coaching staff to make sure that is the number one thing. This team needs to defend. If you're going to win in this conference, you have to be a great defensive team. They're buying into that, and we're seeing a lot of effort that way. And so, yeah, I think it starts there.
Taylor's obviously not going to be a hybrid center pulling up from 3 consistently, but each year that's passed, it seems like her ability as a shooter has gotten further and further away, just in terms of her bag and what she's been able to get. Have you seen that improvement this offseason, where maybe you can get her, you know, at the elbow, at the mid-range, maybe a little bit more than what she was when, you know, she first got here, or even last year, where it's kind of like purely off PNR and then just goes right to the hoop kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean Taylor's, you know, she's really tough to cover, you know, close to the rim, of course, because of her length, because of her skill set, because of how hard she plays and how high she gets up on her jump hooks, and then how high she keeps the ball on every catch and rebound, and then we saw her stretch it a little bit last year, and that has been the focus for her, is just shooting the ball more efficiently from the perimeter. She knows that she'll need that as she continues in her career beyond college. So the kind of neat part in that is that also fits the rest of our post players. I mean, Yelena is so comfortable away from the basket. We saw her three the other day. Kennedy Brown obviously shoots the three and is a face-up 4 or 5. And so in our system, we want them to move away and to be able to go back in and be tougher to find on the offensive end. And so Taylor's, just continues to get better and better in that way, and more comfortable, I should say, at 15, 17 feet.
So what strides has Yellen made in the last year? Because you talk about this front court depth in a pretty glowing way. She's probably the focal point of that front court depth. How much has she improved since last year?
People say new and improved. People say the new when they're talking about the new Yelena. She came back just in different conditions. She's worked so hard, and the reason is it's not a new work ethic necessarily. It's just her body's allowing her to. Coming off 2 knee procedures, one of which both injuries happened before she got to Oregon State. We just rehabbed one and then set her back. And so she's been healthy now for a year and a half. To where she's been able to get in condition, that she wants to be in. And so I just see an ability. I mean, you saw her she's quicker. She covers more ground defensively. A year ago, she was standing, reaching. Now she's moving her feet and getting in the way and making plays. Well, that translates on the offensive end by being on balance more often. And that is all we've talked about since the day the season ended last year, was you have to be on balance 90% of the time instead of 40% of the time. And so she has a game where she's very comfortable away from the hoop, very comfortable shooting, a turnaround jumper, very comfortable dribbling and shooting off the bounce, but not always getting her feet set, which made those attempts lower percentage. Defensively, not able to make a second effort play because she couldn't move. Now she can. And so, we talk about you don't want to be just big, you want big and quick. And so now she's becoming big, quick, long, and super skilled, to where she's, what can she do? I mean, she might be our best passer. She's got a 3-point range. She's obviously really tough to score on around the basket. And we saw her the other day, when we switched 1 through 5, she was guarding their point guard, off a pick and roll a couple times, and she's able to stay with them and use her length and maintain that gap to impact that guard and stay in front of them. So she's a dynamic player that's just going to continue to get better and better.
These are all signed, right? You can talk about them. I guess, just this class in general, obviously. These are some great players, and this is a great class. How did it all come together, and how excited are you for it?
The highest rated recruiting class in Oregon State history. Third by a couple publications. I think we're up there, and so. Rankings are what they are, but they are what they are. I mean, there's a reason. If anything, I think this class, the guards, I think are a little bit underrated, to be honest. Lily, I don't think is a top 100, and I think once you see her skill set and her length and understand who she is as a competitor, I think everybody would recognize that's probably a top 100 kid. Not many people are doing what she can do on a basketball floor at 6'2", on the perimeter, and so. It's a class that has a little bit of everything. We've got inside, outside. We've got post players that are incredible around the rim, that both can step out and shoot it. Tamia can play anywhere from the 3 to the 5. Reagan's a 5, but can step out and shoot it. Both post players are elite passers, like they pass like a point guard, completely unselfish. And then you've got 2 guards that can stroke the 3, both of which have played some point guard in their backgrounds, that have that point guard feel, which I love in all of our guards. I like to have 5 point guards basically on the floor all game long if I could, at least in mindset and skill set. And this class does that. Highest character, great humans. How did it come together? Just through work and finding that right fit and getting them on campus. Before COVID hit, 3 of them had visited already, been to a game, been on our campus. I mean, Tamia visited here when she was an 8th grader in the summer, and then she was at our first ever sellout against Stanford back in 2017, so she's been following our program for so long, and then, I mean, they were looking for what we are, and I think that's what everybody's doing in this process, is trying to find a great fit for you, and when you do, and you find that, it's just kind of magic, and so as soon as I find that skill set that I know works with us, works within our system, I see an athlete, a player, a person that would embrace and enjoy the Pac-12 conference, how difficult it is, have the ability to succeed in this conference, and then I try to find a reason to say no, and if you can't find a reason to say no, you're all in, and we are all in. And so this group, 3 of them were able to come together in early September on their official visit, already committed, which was really fun, and they had a blast together. And you could just tell it's just it was so easy just to have them here. They're already a part of things, and then Adley and her family came a couple weeks later, and it was the same, just so easy. And so couldn't be more excited. Future's bright, perfect compliments at the perfect time.
When you talk about this recruiting class and just reading your quotes from this whole preseason, at least in the time that I've been here, that this is as highly as you have talked about a group going into a year, and talking about how bright the future looks for this program as well. What is it about what's happening right now with your program that makes you so bullish on not just this season, but seasons ahead and kind of what's coming? Has there been a particular cohesiveness or chemistry that's lended itself to that? What has there been that's made you so optimistic about this?
It's a good question. This group has, I'm trying to find weakness. When you look at, I don't know how we're going to fix that, or man, what do we, I can't really find that with this group, with the exception of experience together. And I know that we're going to get that experience. We're going to have 11 preseason games before we hit Pac-12, and I think it's a nice blend of non-conference games to help us really grow and develop to be ready for, Pac-12 play. And I know we'll be ready for Pac-12. And then I look at the team and I'm like, can we defend at the rim? Can we defend the perimeter? Do we have shooters? Do we have an inside presence? Do we have point guard play? And then do we have competitors that can handle it all? And this group has all that. It's all that. I'm confident in our abilities as coaches, to prepare them and get them ready for the rigors of what it takes. But I'm looking at them, I'm like, why not? I mean, this group has all those things. And so the maturity that we have with our veterans, this is a team that it does definitely have the youth, but we also are veteran. I mean, you got Ellie Mack out there in her 6th year, just veteran, and you got Taya Corzell in her 5th year, Kennedy and Taylor now, in their 3rd year in our program. You've got vets. Emily Cotting and Taya Adams, who I just know have been through the wars, not the Pac-12 yet, but the wars of their conferences. We know their conferences on the West Coast here. They've been through it all. And then you add really talented, new players. And so that whole culmination goes, and then how do they work each day? And they come in and they take care of business. They get along great. I know that's demanded. That's a prereq, in my opinion, for greatness. They have that. I feel like we problem solve well already. And so you just have that optimism and that hope. And, I think that's where that's coming from. And so I'm excited to work with them every day, excited to help them. They want to be coached. That's not always the case in this day and age. And not everybody always wants to be coached. This team does. They accept, looking at a mistake, and they're like, okay, and that's just a sign of growth and maturity. So that, there's lots of reason for optimism, and then you look at who we have coming next year that we just talked about. That's reason for optimism going into the future.
Scott, you've been through all these recruiting things. You've built a really strong program, and obviously you get some skilled players. And the culture that you built off the court with your fan base, with Damon and Mingle and all that stuff, how important has that been in the recruiting process? And having people around like a Merritt Jensen, who's recently passed, and I know meant a lot to your program. What does someone like him mean to the program, and just that whole atmosphere together? And does that give you guys not a leg up, but just another reason for kids to want to come play here?
Well, when I came here, all those years ago now, I knew that if we built a program worthy of support, we would be supported. I knew that. I know this community, obviously, and I didn't know how quickly we could do it. I didn't know those things, but I just knew if we allowed our players to be known, this place would come and support. And if we played right, even if we didn't win every game, we would be supported well. And obviously that's been proven true in every essence. It's taken, then there are those, the icing on the cake, the amazing people, those individuals that come in and kind of blow your mind with their generosity. And we were very fortunate to have Mayor Jensen, from day one. I was actually last night looking at some old press conferences. I don't know why. Every once in a while you just go back, and I was looking at some old press conferences. And I looked at a story that one of the local news stations, I can't remember the one, did on us year one. And it was just like, get to know the coach and this new team of, misfits, basically, the walk-ons, the soccer player, the volleyball player. And in the background, there was Mayor Jensen sitting courtside. And I'm like, Mayor was there with me from day one, but obviously he'd been here long before that. But to have somebody like that come in and invest in the program and in the players, get to know them by name, and just be there, supporting in a practice that who cares about a practice? And there's Merritt just showing up day after day, supporting and just providing, he made it the place to be. He just made you feel so good. Just like, man, this guy really cares about us. And he made it seem even bigger than it was, and then he was just there constantly, as long as he could be, and so here comes Merritt walking in, it's like, how's he still moving? The guy's 100 years old, and he's walking in the gym with the quickest wit, a time for everyone. But you never left Merritt without a smile on your face. You couldn't walk away, without it. And so we're going to miss him, and we have missed him, since he hasn't been able to be around as often. But last year our team was able to go see him on his birthday, celebrate with him in Albany at the facility he was staying at. And he was able to come out and interact with us just at the door. And the wit was still every bit as quick. Most of our team had not met him to that point, or at least half of them hadn't. And so they were like, who is this guy? And he had us rolling. We were just dying laughing. And so he's just brought nothing but joy to our whole community and meant the world to our program.
Looking at the Pac-12 writ large this year, there's been a lot of talent that's come through this conference in the last 20 years, but this feels like there could be 8 tournament teams this season, and the teams that made it last year are all just totally loaded up again, whether that's in the portal or through recruiting. Is this the deepest you've seen the conference in the last handful of years, especially coming off 2 teams that competed in the national championship, the national profile, and just how deep this league is?
It's hard to say. I never want to disrespect the past. And I feel like we should have had 8 teams in last year. I feel like we should have 8 teams in 2 years ago. And nobody wanted to play USC the last 2 years in the postseason. Nobody, and they didn't get in. And so, being a part of it, you kind of look at it from that perspective. What I am so blown away with is just the quality of every team based upon the way they're coached, the way the programs are run, the talent level, the people that have chosen to stick around and stay for another year makes it, extremely competitive and deep. Every night's an absolute battle. There's no bad teams. That's true of this conference. There's no dysfunction. There's just 12 really good basketball teams that, just go at it night after night and prepare each other for March. And so it could be the deepest it's ever been. We'll see as it goes. We graduated some really good players, of course, but if you just look at who everybody's added, we've added some unbelievable players. And that's not slowing down. Look at signing day today. Look at the recruiting classes. How many are in the top 10 from the Pac-12? 5?
5 or 6.
5 or 6. 5 or 6 Pac-12 schools are in the top 10 recruiting, rankings for the 22 class. And so it's not slowing down, and so it's just getting better and better. It's a joy to be a part of. It's a challenge, but that's what we signed up for. It's a blast, to be a part of. And so when it comes to March, it's just fun, for somebody like me who's been around, this is year 12 now, to see the level of respect nationally that our conference has earned to see that, so just to see us discussed more and more, and certainly, you know, having multiple teams in the Final Four, 2 teams in the championship game last year, of course, you know, that helps, no question. But the reputation, I mean, we just keep proving it anytime we get out off the West Coast, and we've proved it in the tournament every year. And so we could have 6 teams in the Sweet 16, in my opinion, you know, based upon seeding.
What can you tell us about LMU?
Athletic. You know, Erica is going to do a great job there. I'm excited for her. I mean, she's, you know, played at Southridge High School, and so she's one of ours. And, you know, I'm getting into them now because they're new. I mean, she's new. We're like, okay, what are they going to look like, you know? But we know a couple of their players pretty well, and it's game 1. I mean, it's going to be a battle, and you know, I don't know, Ariel Johnson is a heck of a player, I know that.